All right, here we are, the third and final episode on lighting. Now, I do need to make a quick correction to something that I did earlier. You'll notice when referring to Goomba 1, we set it straight to the HP of the character sheet. And again, all of these tokens are linked to character sheets. When I talked about having, 3 sprites and all of their HP was linked, well, that's because I did that, and I didn't know this because some of the stuff that had been used had been programmed correctly, some incorrectly, so I was, ultimately I was wrong. Let me show you how to fix that. So, like right now, if one of them gets healed, they all get healed. 1 second, let me make sure we're still going. We are. Okay, so to end that, you remember how we selected a master token before? Essentially, we're going to be doing that again, but instead of leaving it at HP, just select at the very top, none. So that way, they are not linked to the character sheet. You can change them, mess with them all you want individually. So let's just go save that. Edit. Move. Yes, I'm sure. Save changes. So that was for just the regular sprite. And I'm pretty sure we made the same problem on the evil sprite, because remember, we duplicated, and that's what you do. You duplicate. You don't start changing the stuff that's already there. And again, to do that, it's edit, duplicate. And, the copy will appear here, and you can alter that however you want. Okay, we've already done the sprite. We're on the evil sprite now. Edit. Represents the sprite. We don't want that. We want the evil sprite. Oh, we didn't set this guy up to begin with. Yay? But yeah, so just real quick. Stealth. AC, and then none, and we had it set to 2 of 2. So save changes, and then we can just straight up use selected token. Save changes, and there we go. And we can now, mess with those, change their health, all we want. And now you can copy and paste and just start copy, paste, and then just start spawning in your evil sprite army and going from there. Of course, they all spawned right there. Okay, now to get to lighting. Sorry for the delay. Let's get to the new stuff now. Lighting, honestly, is one of the more complicated things in Roll20 just because there's a variety of flavors of it. Many YouTube videos are actually quite good on lighting. However, they only talk about one aspect or another. So that's why I'm even doing this one. It's amazing how they won't talk about fog of war, but they do talk about dynamic lighting. I believe dynamic lighting is just for the paying subscribers of Roll20. And for that reason, it doesn't apply to everyone. Now, there are essentially 3 flavors. And to get to them, you go to the page settings on the page you want to enable these lighting settings on, hit the settings wheel, and it's right down here, kind of towards the bottom. Fog of War, which is just, think of it as old school as tabletop role-playing games get. Ideally, you have a dungeon that's been drawn out on graph paper, and you have, I don't know, some black construction paper or something like that that's kind of obscuring the rest of the dungeon, and you just kind of slowly remove it as the players explore. Advanced Fog of War is the black construction paper recedes, but then kind of a transparent blackness takes over in the places they've already been, but don't know what's kind of going on there now. Whereas Fog of War, once it's unveiled, it's unveiled. And then dynamic lighting is the crazy one, where, there are light sources. It can actually really slow down your game, stuff like that. But it is the hardest, by far, to implement, but it is also kind of the biggest ooh-ah factor. And you can have a lot of fun with it. And that's why it's worth talking about. But real quick, let's just hit Fog of War. And we can go from there. And of course, you can control how dark the darkness is, because it's nice to be the GM. Okay, so as you can see, things are a bit darker now. The one thing you will need to remember is that if you want to see what a player would see, you click on their token and then hit Control L. Nothing has happened here because, of course, we haven't set our Goombas up for, sight yet. You remember how there was the basics and then there's the advanced. And there was this whole area here about emits light, fog of war, stuff like that. Well, we're going to be talking about this part, the emits light, fog of war, in the advanced tab today. That's pretty much what this is going to be about. This tab here and the tab that we just explored on the page settings. Now, the first thing, you need to give the token sight. Otherwise, it literally won't be able to see. Now, we haven't kind of programmed in how far it sees or anything like that, but we'll get there. So right now, we'll just say it has sight. And we will do the same. Actually, you know what? No, we'll keep Goomba 2 in the dark. Yuck. For now, just so we can kind of compare and contrast. So, real quick, if you just have regular Fog of War turned on, and to be honest, this might ultimately be the most effective version of kind of controlling the darkness. Just because players automatically tend to stop when they see just a big wall of darkness that you have yet to reveal, something like that. They know something's up. They're not going to just kind of careen into it. Whereas the other stuff, the players kind of go nuts. It's like, oh, I can do all this cool stuff. I can make light move around. They just start blitzing around the map. And that can throw off your timings because maybe they ran over a trap. And of course, they separated themselves way ahead of the party, so on and so forth. So in some ways, the most basic, just regular Fog of War, is actually the most valuable. And kind of my favorite. Not so much in its showiness, but just its sheer effectiveness. So, okay, Ryan, that's enough. You like Fog of War. How do you use it? Very simple. You remember this eye that was here? And I just kind of said, we'll skip that for now because that's the lighting. Well, it's the lighting video now. So, you essentially have a couple options. You reveal by clicking and dragging a box. Super easy. There's the polygon reveal, which we're going to be dealing a lot with the polygons, but thankfully they all abide to the same rules. Hold Shift to snap to grid. Control Z to undo the last point. Right click or escape to complete. Then there's hide areas where, here, I can do this real fast. So reveal areas, click and drag. You notice how that area is lighter now. Well, if you wanted to undo that, you just go to hide areas, you literally drag it again. And you'll notice you doubled up here. It's not a bad thing. Don't worry about it. And if nothing else, you can reset the fog right there, and that just sets everything back to 0. But to reveal stuff, you just click drag, and they would have seen the entrance here. And there you go. And then to see what it looks like from their point of view, you click on their token, Control L. That did not work because I forgot these tokens have not been assigned to a player yet. We haven't gotten that far. So the darkness, their vision only applies to players. Well, since not everyone is currently playing, it can be a bit awkward. Since there is literally just me in this game, it's hard to kind of give that to other players, at least for Fog of War. But I assure you, they literally see just whatever you've lit up. Is it because they don't have sight? No, it has sight. Here, let's just try something. 10. No, it's not playing along. Don't worry about it. Okay, the other way is the polygon reveal. This is actually going to be your best friend, especially if things get a little wonky. If you just kind of keep holding shift, you'll notice how it just kind of keeps expanding and you can keep going. And you don't have to do every single one. You can kind of go down to there, stuff like that. It actually is very helpful. And then you just hit, those were all left clicks, you hit right click to then reveal all this stuff. It's actually very useful. And again, you can just essentially kind of, okay, they're approaching here. So just 1 click, 2 clicks, 3 clicks, 4 clicks, and very quickly, bam, you've uncovered just this room. Is it perfect? No, but you know what? It does just fine. So that is regular Fog of War. Very, very useful, and the downright easiest way to do everything. Characters can move around just fine. However, they can totally also just kind of dive off into nothingness, stuff like that. That is one of the benefits of dynamic lighting, but we'll get to that later. Okay, so that is Fog of War, just regular Fog of War. We'll reset it, and we'll move on. Let's do Advanced Fog of War. Okay, and this is what I was thinking of. All tokens reveal, since they're, again, Fog of War that are tokens that are controlled by a player. There are no players in here yet, so I need to select that. Dim light reveals. You don't have to do this, but I do. Unfortunately, bright is like sunlight. So, a torch is not sunlight. And I'll show you the differences here very soon. So let's go ahead and hit that too, because I like stuff darker, moodier now. You as a player haven't experienced that because I haven't really come back to that yet. So it was something I picked up on recently between the Yuan-Ti dungeons. So here we go. We'll hit those, and you can see that there is a limited area here, and that is me selecting it and hitting Control L. This is what the player sees. And you'll see that stuff over here on the right side has started going gray, has started graying out. The character knows that area is there, but it doesn't know what is going on there currently, where they're kind of going further and further to the left. And just like Goomba 2, I think, is right here, but since it's out of view, they don't realize that. Okay, and that is essentially Advanced Fog of War. The characters are able to reveal it by themselves. Again, they can go off the reservation, stuff like that. And that one is on the GM layer, so don't worry about that. The players won't see that. And they can just kind of burn through stuff. It activates slowly, but it works just fine. And it's kind of a method of slowing people down, too. So, again, just both flavors of the Fog of War, very useful, and I highly recommend them. This is also where you can start playing with how far they can see, stuff like that. So right now, this is somewhere probably 10 feet. It depends how you count the center. But yeah, 10 feet here. One thing to note is this is dim light. So think of it like this. If I set the maximum, they see 20 feet. And this is the start of dim light. I can put that at 10 feet, and you'll see what happens. Actually, I have it set to dim light reveals, so they're just getting the full 20. But I'll show you that more on the dynamic lighting, since I guess it applies to there much more. I believe that is it for Advanced Fog of War. Then let's go ahead and tone this person down to 10 feet and 5 feet. All right, and with that, let's do, and again, dynamic lighting is the, how can I put, it's the paid version of, Fog of War. It's very handy, but it can actually be quite taxing, and it also has a few kind of nuances to it. All right, so the first one, Enforce Line of Sight, that's Again, the description here, player's line of sight set by what tokens they can control. You definitely want this. That means that, Goomba 1, the player, cannot see what Goomba 2, the player, sees. And to me, that's a good thing. It forces them to communicate, stuff like that. So we want that. Only update on drop. Again, you'll get roamers. And they'll start moving all around the map, with no regard to timing or the rest of the party. This helps curb that a little bit. And again, restricting movement, you can actually kind of create barriers that boxes players in. Not like you can only be in this tiny little 5-foot cube, but there's a wall here. You can't go outside, which is what I've been showing you with kind of circling around the one, stuff like that. So I like that. Global illumination. That is a terrible description. Think of this as, is there a sun? Is this outside? This is not outside. There is no sun, so do not click global illumination. And with that, we go right back in. Now you'll notice it's changed more to a circle. And if I hit Control L, here is bright light, here is dim light. So there's a serious difference, and we can go and we can amp that up. Let's set it to 20. So there is a grand total of a light radius of 20 feet, but after 10 feet, it becomes dim light. So here you go, 10 feet of bright light, and then 10 feet of dim lights. Now again, you'll notice that bright light, it looks... It's too bright, is what I'm saying for a dungeon. And if you got a torch or something like that, my advice: set dim light to 0. So you got 20 feet of dim light. You see enough stuff, but it also sets a mood and a bunch of other things. And if you have people that have dark vision, stuff like that, you can give them that little boost. And honestly, I don't agree with, how can I put this? D&D, the rules, and D&D played out in Roll20 are two different things. I think, someone with advanced eyesight gets basically this far of seeing in dim light, 60 feet or something like that. It gets you a lot, and in my opinion, too much. So honestly, I'd go down to 30 feet, something like that. Just know that whenever they're doing perception checks, keep that in mind. And again, if you don't like the way that it's taking a little pause, you can just go up and undo only update on drop. So now it's just much faster, so on and so forth. But you can see how they're seeing outside. The downside of dynamic lighting is you have to prepare for it. And that is literally, where'd it go? There is a dynamic lighting layer as well. And I'm going to show you how to do this right now. Thankfully, it's not too hard, especially once you get practiced at it. But essentially, you are going to be drawing. So my advice, do the polygon line, and it's the same rules as before. Now, this is important. Pick something that is highly visible. We already got some orange. My advice, maybe some, let's do some magenta. I'm feeling magenta today. And again, is that We're not doing anything filled, so yeah, sorry, I had a brain fart there. So hold shift, because being able to follow the... And for stuff like this, my advice, it's best to decide what you want to do early on, and so you can kind of decide to, am I going to go all the way around like that? Or... and I'm just pressing Control-Z to go back, or am I just going to kind of skip that, chop off a little bit, and keep going? My advice, either way works. Just decide early on what you want to do. Keep that uniform aesthetic and just go from there. But we are literally just tracing this room. And unfortunately, this is why, kind of a nice little mini dungeon is a great idea. You can do one of these pretty quickly. Whereas if you had a massive 27-room dungeon, you're just going to dread doing this the entire time. Even if you like making dungeons, which, believe it or not, I do. I think that's one of the best parts. I still hate dungeons from some perspectives, but that's probably just because I've had some bad experiences in them. Okay. And we keep going. Yeah, we're just going to cut through. Now here's where stuff is going to get interesting. You'll notice we need to go back in here. So what I'm going to prescribe is that we kind of hit here and split the wall. Go here. And then just kind of split down the middle to there. And I took my hand off of shift for that, and then hit shift again. Just keep going here. And take my hand off of shift. Hit there. Hit here. And then hit shift again. All right, and then you can see that it kind of doled out, which meant I completed it because I was doing the shift and following the grid. However, all those were done with left clicks. Go ahead and hit right click to finish it out just in case. Right click or escape. But again, I'm hitting right click now. It's already happened. So let's go see kind of what that did with our work. And we gotta, again, don't get stuck in the layers. So you remember how you this token you could kind of move out there. I'm pressing up; he can't move anymore, and you could kind of see out there and beyond. Well, that's not possible anymore, and literally those wall areas we set up are blocking, views, stuff like that. So we did good. Everything is working as intended. And we can be proud of our work. Okay. Now, again, because we've actually finally set up emits light, stuff like that, we're going to have to resave this. However, one thing you can do, so I'm going to be a jerk. I'm going to say, people get 12 feet. And when I do that, it is not far. You can see there is 1, 2, and then maybe a little bit more. It's enough to make do if you have to, but they can totally basically walk into a room filled with monsters, not know it. The reason I do that, not to be mean, but to make them use a torch. And, let's say they do pull out a torch. Then you need to come up here and kind of crank it up to, I think torches give off 10 feet and then 20, so a grand total of 20 and then 10 feet of bright light. So then they look more like this. And here is a key. If one player pulls out a torch, the other players should be able to see that. But right now, since Goomba 2 has not been set up for anything, if we hit Control L, they see nothing. So let's fix that. This person now has sight. I did make a mistake up here with Goomba 1. They pulled out a torch. They then begin, they're always going to be emitting light, just, when they have sight, they see for a set distance. But when they have a torch or something else, candle, whatever, then you hit all players see light. And you remember how it was dark for Goomba 2 before? Now, they can literally see Goomba 1 and what they can see. Or they can see in the light area if it's not blocked by anything. And then, this person also sees for 10, although they only get, or I think I said it 12. And 0 is the start of dim. So Goomba 2 can see a little bit more, but as you can see, she sees Goomba 1. Now, you'll notice there is a pillar between them, and it is not affecting their sight in any way. That shouldn't be how that works, so let's go fix that. Okay, so we already did the walls in setting for the dynamic lighting. And there is a lot. There are 4 pillars here, 1 pillar there, nothing there, 4 pillars in there, and nothing in there. So we've got 8 pillars we have to do. Thankfully, it's quite easy. This time you just go to draw shape. Now you can either, I'd leave it the same color, but you can also, pick a fill color, or you can leave it transparent, which is what this very last one is. You can do what you want. Honestly, just leave it transparent. It's fine. Oop. And then to remove stuff, just hit the grabber tool, and then you can just select it and delete it. But let's try this again. Okay, so again, there are little rules that you really should pay attention to. Draw a rectangle. That is the regular, but we don't want that. Hold Alt for a circle ellipse. Hold Shift, snap to grid. So we want Alt. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind, you don't want to cover this entire thing. You want a little kind of peeking out all the way around the edges, just so people can see it. And so just kind of, you click on this inner circle, and again, it's a dragging thing, so don't start in the center and then come over here. Go from one side, dragging to the other side. So let's, holding Alt, clicking. All right. Just go, keep doing that. They don't have to be perfect. They're just there to kind of create some shadows and set a mood, Okay. One second. Thank God. I was terrified that I had come this far and it wasn't recording anymore. Okay, so I believe that's all of them. Yep. Okay, so we just moved back to select move. Let's go back to the tokens layer so we can move our Goombas around a bit. Now, we're going to take Goomba 1 because Goomba 1 has a torch, whereas Goomba 2 does not. However, let's see what things look like from Goomba 2's perspective now. All right, as you can see, there's kind of a black thing moving around, projecting a shadow, stuff like that. Okay. And yeah. All right, and if we move up to here, again, we kind of see the pillars of shadows, stuff like that. Again, it's mostly you'd be surprised if it's a big enough pillar, stuff like that. It can block vision, but it's mostly a mood thing. And it's just one of those nice little touches too. But I believe that kind of concludes this. Again, just make sure you get everything down. Is there anything I'd add? So total radius of light, beginning of dim. That's kind of all you need to know. Unless they have a torch, something like that, I would start dim at 0. Advanced Fog of War, if you really don't want to mess with this and have Advanced Fog of War turned on, just set this to like 15 and they see 15 and forget it. However, one thing you can do, and it works, what I might suggest is skipping bright light altogether, and it's like for 20 feet, if they have a torch out, you see dim light. That actually kind of makes a bit more sense to me because, again, bright light is literally freaking daylight, and I don't agree with that. However, like let's say they pull out a torch or something, you can actually, what we can do is we can set that to 12. So they see that, but let's say they pull out a torch and you don't want to deal with all that, just set the multiplier to 2. That'll actually just, 12 times 2, 24. So now they see 24, and yeah, it's an easy way, and honestly, it works. And if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. So there we go. Again, if they have a torch or something that that emits light for other people, make sure it has, all players see light. And again, if you're doing this for the first time and you hit Control L, why can't I see anything? They probably don't have sight. So, real quick, let's head to Goomba 1, because you want to save their default tokens. Otherwise, you're going to be doing this all over again for the next dungeon map they go to. So just do yourself a favor and get used to, or just edit their tokens correctly, just the very and by that I mean completely, whereas, this has been kind of a step-by-step process. But there we go. These 2 tokens are ready to go wherever. We've covered lighting. I hope this has helped. It's meant to have been just a crash course to get you what you need to know here on Roll20. Again, it's a powerful tool, and I'm excited for you. I think as long as you kind of take the stuff that was given here and have some fun creating a dungeon, again, use the numbers, kind of set yourself up for success, have a little bit of flavor text for each area, and write down kind of the obstacles that you can face in room 5, etc. I think you'll come up with something great. It's actually a lot easier than it seems, and it's a lot of fun too. All right, that's that. I hope this helped.